Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the
Eincrou and StarduskLP
Thus-
podcast.
yeah, I guess that's a good way of putting it, or a good way of calling it. Today we're going to be talking about the fine art of LPing. Yeah, what
Let's
does that mean?
plays.
Let's plays. You know, a ubiquitous form of YouTube gaming videos. That's just the Let's Play. It's become a classic. Maybe it's overdone by now, and that's what we're going to be talking about. I mean, very first question, I'll ask Eincrou, what is a Let's Play?
Well, I think there are two main kinds of LPs. There's the kind of LP where the guy's played the game before already, and there's the kind where the guy's never played the game before. Those are the two main kinds that I can identify, and it seems like when you look at an LP, it's most likely going to be somebody who's going into it blind. That's how it's usually called, a blind LP, where the person's complete amateur at the game. They have no idea what they're doing. You're getting their first impressions as they see everything for the first time, and maybe that's the draw to that kind of LP, is you get someone's real reaction to whatever strange stuff is going on in the game. But there is obviously a lower level of skill involved in it when it comes to actually playing the game and knowledge of the game than the other type of LP, where the person is guiding you through the game more in the like a walkthrough, basically.
Exactly. Actually, I wanted to talk about that because you had mentioned that Total Biscuit has this. He doesn't like LPs in the sense that, right? But the thing that he seems to favor, seems to be much more similar to a walkthrough. I mean, a walkthrough in the sense that, you know, you move to position X and this is what you do. You press this button and here's this item. And I mean, that's not really an LP. That's a walkthrough. That's someone telling you what to do. I think there is a distinction between the two genres, if you want to call them that. And the one he seems to favor, it just seems to be a walkthrough, you know, having someone know the game really well and, saying this is what you need to do that. And I guess you could explain things. I mean, in my current Skyrim LP, obviously have more hours clocked in than most human beings on Earth, so I know the game really well. And you know, I don't play in a completely immersive way. I find it very difficult to pretend I'm only the character. Gopher does that really well. I can't really do that. I do sometimes do that, but so I do make comments. For example, the LP I did today, I said, you know, this is a good strategy if you want to use this dragon shout. Here's how you do it the best way, and so on and so forth. So I think, you know, there's the walkthrough, there's the blind LP, and then there's kind of a middle ground, I guess. I think I prefer the middle ground. At least that's how I do it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, going back to Total Biscuit and what he thinks of the LP, it seems that he's of the brand of he's a fan of the brand of LP that came out of the Something Awful forums, which was people that are experts on the game playing the game, and usually in post commentary they will add their thoughts and more background information about the game and all this kind of detailed stuff that you're not going to get from a live LP of someone doing it blind. And so that's his foundation for what an LP should be. And he doesn't like the people that will jump onto a game as soon as it comes out, pump out a bunch of LP content for it, and he thinks it's junk content that does a disservice to gaming videos, because it's just I mean, there's little thought put into it, little effort. It's just a guy playing the game and talking. And right. I understand his dislike of this, because it's like he tries to be a professional when it comes to gaming content. But lot of people, and a lot of people watch these day one LPs. So obviously, it's something that people want to see. Is these
the appeal of a day one LP is, you know, first off, this is a complex topic. I mean, why I think first you have to need to pose a question: why do people watch LPs? Now, I think there are basically three possible reasons, and there might be more, but there are three reasons in my assessment as to why people watch LPs. The first reason is what you're talking about, right? A day one, never seen the game before, let's check it out. You know, what's the game like? And this is, of course, a good way to grow your channel from a strategic point of view. It's just a fact. If a game comes out and you're one of only 3 people on YouTube uploading it, you can put in the search algorithm, and well, there you have people viewing your videos because it's day one. The other way is, I guess, what you mentioned is someone who really knows it well and talking about all the details. But by far, in my personal experience, I think people watch LPs mostly for the personality. Total Biscuit himself, Total Biscuit himself has gone on record. I've seen him say this, that he's literally said, I could be playing, I'm just making this game up, Flying Pigs, jumping from cloud to cloud, whatever that game might be, and people will still watch it because it's Total Biscuit. And I think by and large, people watch LPs because they like the personality behind it. And in for example, in my case, I'm a minuscule channel and I get very few views on my LPs, but the people who do watch it are people who kind of like my personality. A lot of them come from my other channels, so that's where that comes from. And in the case of Total Biscuit, yeah, he can make a video about just about any game and people watch because it's him. Same thing with Gopher. He's got a very agreeable personality. And so, yeah, I think ultimately that's what it comes down to. People don't watch, with the exception of Day One or these kind of pseudo walkthrough LPs, people don't watch LPs to gain, for real informative purposes, I think. Yeah.
That's what you're describing here is exactly probably like 90 to 95% of the LP watching that goes on is they like the personality of this person. They're not there so much for the game itself. Maybe you got some new people, people new to whatever that specific channel is, who are coming there for the game. But the people who subscribe, obviously, they're subscribed to this person. They're not subscribed necessarily to a specific LP unless it's a specialized channel like Gopher's. So it's definitely a matter of personality that brings people into the LP scene. And when it comes to personality, what do you think people like in the LPs they watch, and what do you like in the LPs you watch in terms of the person doing it?
I don't watch too many LPs myself. I mean, if it's a first day, example, if there's a game that's just been released, I want to check it out. I'll have a gander. I think, to be honest, I'm not doing this to be a brown noser. The only LPs I really watch with any degree of consistency are Gophers. I think they're very well done. He gets really into the character, immersive. He is the character. I can't really do that. I don't do a good job at that.
Role playing.
He role plays. I do kind of role playing. I'm more about the technical stuff. People watch my Please to notice I'm using Potion X to accomplish that. I'll use this dragon shot because it accomplishes this, and that's kind of more my style. It's more of a technical perspective on things. Whereas Gopher he does a really good job at role playing. I think people appreciate that, and he does a really good job editing as well. He's got a style. Every LP begins with a kind of almost a cutscene, and then it just kind of launches in. He does it's very stylistic what he does, and of course everyone loves Gopher's voice. So yeah, I watch a lot of his LPs, but I can't say I've watched too many other LPs.
I think back to my first encounter with an LP. I had never heard of LPing. I didn't know that people would play entire games and put them on YouTube. It was maybe 3 years ago, and I was looking for I think I was looking for a song from a game. It was, and don't laugh, it was Ronald McDonald's Treasure Adventure, I think was the name of the game. It was a game from my childhood, all right? And I loved that game, and I wanted to hear some of the music that was in it because the game actually had really good music. And I came across this guy named Billy MC, this really weird sounding kid, and he played the entire game. And I ended up watching him play the entire game again, and just so much nostalgia from playing that game like 10, 15 years ago. And that was my first experience with Let's Plays. And this guy, he had a very strong personality to him, and it made me want to look at the other stuff he had done as well. And it seems since then, LPing has just exploded. There weren't that many LPs back when I encountered this Billy MC guy, and now I've even tried doing LPs. I made an LP of the BioShock Infinite DLC on one of my other channels, and it can be kind of a strange experience to play a game and keep up a constant stream of commentary about it, because I don't talk when I play video games just by myself. So it's a very unusual thing to do, and it takes practice to manage to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still learning the ropes. I mean, I'm getting better, I think. But and one thing about LPs too is that there's certain things you need to leave out. I mean, they're just in a game like Skyrim, which is just so massive. Yeah, you're documenting.
We don't need to see you walking down every road.
Exactly. I mean, I don't use fast travel really ever in Skyrim, but you know, I don't need to show that necessarily. And with the LP, it's important to be consistent in getting them out. And I'll reveal a little secret. For the purpose of the LP, to get things done, sometimes I will use fast travel, because rather than spending the entire time with a character that's primarily there for the sake of the LP rather than just me exploring different things, sometimes it's useful to use fast travel for convenience sake. And it's not just that, just little things. I mean, maybe there's you want to complete one little shout. I mean, there's so many things of that game that documenting everything just seems superfluous. And so you have to sort of pick and choose your battles.
I think Skyrim is actually one of the few games where you might actually want to cut out certain things. I think most games you can just go with the entire experience.
Yeah, you can't do that with Skyrim. It's just, I mean, it would become, you'd be have to uploading 4 or 5 LPs a day, which my limitations, I couldn't do that. It just wouldn't be possible. You have to forego certain things, which is okay. I'm as a little announcement for my subs. I've recently made a Khajiit character, and I'm planning on a couple of unique LPs that have nothing to do with my main one, using a player that is mod player made DLC exclusively. I'll be using this character. His name is Cesar, and I need to build him up a bit before I do that. But so I'll be covering things like Falscar with that character, Moonpath to Elsewhere, and as well as Worm's Tooth, which is another interesting one. So, but that's what I mean. In one LP for one character, my current the Druid warrior I'm playing now, Zorna, it's just covering everything would just be an impossible task. So I just concentrate on the main things. I'm going to be doing all the major DLC, the main quest, and every now and then some optional things. But there are limits, of course.
So let's talk a bit about your particular LP style. You call yourself the what gamer?
What gamer? The mellow gamer.
The mellow gamer. There you go.
Yeah.
So you don't do the loud, constant talking, constant making jokes type of things that a lot of the big LPers do. You try to keep it more low key and just talk about the game. And
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I guess the word I'd probably use is natural. I mean, it's not natural when you're playing a game to be constantly spouting off jokes and pretending, just constantly speaking. I think it's disruptive too. I mean, if I were to watch an LP, someone just running his mouth off 100 miles an hour, I'd get irritated. I mean, the few people that appreciate my LP with Skyrim, I think it's mostly because I do have a lot of knowledge of the game, and I'll explain things as they come up. But if you don't always need to talk. I mean, some things are sometimes straightforward, and sometimes I'll explain something, or I might say something out loud. But this constant stream of talking, I guess that's good if you're a really big channel and people, I don't know, they like your personality. But yeah, for me, it's just natural. I try to make my LP as natural as possible, with a few exceptions, like I said, to expedite things off screen. Sometimes I'll fast travel or whatever for this particular run, this particular playthrough. But I just don't see the purpose in constantly talking
Well,
all the time.
I do have some respect for people that have the capability to do that, because I couldn't do it. And one of the guys that is just the top of the line when it comes to constant and uninterrupted, very fast talking in his gameplay is this guy called Northern Lion. He's Canadian LPer, and so Northern Lion, he'll play a select number of games at a time. The games he's playing now are like Hearthstone. He's playing Binding of Isaac, Spelunky he used to play, and these are not games that have a whole lot that you can pedal off of with your commentary. He has to keep just off the top of his head, come up with stuff that seems relevant to the gameplay, and I couldn't do that for a game like Spelunky, where you're just running along, avoiding spike traps and killing spiders. To me, I would have nothing to say in that type of scenario. So I do have some respect for guys that can do this amount of commentary that's high energy all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's good commentary rather than just randomly saying stuff for the sake of saying stuff, I think that's often what happens with a lot of these guys who are just constantly talking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you can do it, then do it. If not, then don't do it. I mean, part of it for me is it's just not my style, whatever channel it might be. I tend to consider what I'm saying before I say it. I'm slow paced. I've been called often, actually, whether it's good or bad, soporific sometimes. So, but if someone can do that, more power to them. But let me just say that it's rare that that someone can do it well. I mean, anyone can just randomly make comments nonstop, but it's an entirely different thing if you can make good commentary nonstop. Yeah,
there are very few people that can do that, and it depends on the game, I think, because if it's a repetitive game and you're doing repetitive things, obviously you can't say the same thing over and over and over. It's like the game is sending you things to do over and over and over. So I find that if it's a strategy game, like let's say XCOM Enemy Unknown, which is a game that I've watched a guy named Marbozier play. Marbozier is a guy who plays mainly strategy games, and he's able to keep just constant on-topic commentary because it's a strategy game. So you have to be thinking about what you're going to do, what your next move is, what your opponent's next move is. And so anytime he says something, it's on point all the time. And I think that the genre of game that he's playing really speaks to that. And I've tried my own video of doing commentary to XCOM, and I find that it's a lot easier than some of the other games I've tried, like first-person shooter games, because just the entire time, if it's a turn-based game like XCOM or like Civilization 5, I mean, your entire turn is just you thinking, what are you going to do? So your commentary is just thinking aloud rather than having to come up with jokes or other random stuff. So, I mean, how many strategy games do you play, Stardust? Is strategy one of your genres that you enjoy?
Yes and no. I have to say, I tried XCOM and it
too random.
Really click with me. Well, people were just recommending it to me, and there's the demo. I just kind of tried it out. It just wasn't really my shtick. But I used to be into strategy, but I think as I gotten older, anything that's turn-based, I tend to be, well, maybe I'm spoiled, but I like real-time a lot more, I have to say. I made a video about this. I mean, whatever the game might be, I prefer real-time to turn-based games. But I do know what you're talking about. I mean, back in the day when Mass Effect 3 multiplayer was very popular, and I sort of became a guide maker for that, I kind of saw myself in a similar light or role, and I would really just talk about the game mechanics and the reason why you'd use, I don't know, build X as opposed to build Y and things like that. And I have to say I enjoyed that probably the most. of anything. I've even considered doing a series of kind of character classes for Skyrim, playing on high level because always play on legendary. You know, what's effective, how can you combine things the best way. I'm not sure if I'll ever get around to that, but because I just do tend to focus in on a few games and try to get really good at that are familiar, and then I would probably stick with whatever I know, as opposed to just completely trying something new. And you know, I instantly know in Blast, I was telling you a little bit earlier, I finally decided to try Witcher 2, and yes, I know blasphemy, but it just did not click with me. I didn't really like the controls. I didn't really like the magic system. And I didn't like the fact that I was confined to a single protagonist.
You've been spoiled by Skyrim.
It's quite possible that I've been spoiled by Skyrim, yeah, which doesn't, you know, to take away. I know The Witcher is a great game of the series, but I like the versatility of Skyrim, the variability you can. It's especially with the mods. It just appeals to me a lot more than a single player. That kind of thing. I mean, there are a few exceptions, like it's Mass Effect with Shepard, but then you had a squad, and then I think multiplayer was more appealing to many people for the reason that you had more variety than just, you know, being stuck with Shepard. So, now that said, I've seen the Witcher 3 trailer and it looks pretty amazing. But I think you need to like The Witcher to begin with to really get into it. I mean, I can say it looks amazing. It's like me. I don't know anything about cars. I can see a fancy Lamborghini and say that looks amazing, but I'm not going to drive it, you know. So same principle, I think.
Well, a game like The Witcher is definitely more of a directed experience than Skyrim or Fallout.
Yeah.
And they do have a path that they want to take you along. But it seems like you're a fan of being able to make the choices when it comes to creating your character and to having more. Is it that you like the option of just doing whatever you want to do at a certain point in time rather than being locked into a story?
I don't. Well, no. I maybe I should backtrack. I don't want locked into a story. I don't mind being locked in the story. I've liked certain BioWare titles such as Dragon Age Origins, not Dragon Age piece of shit 2. So I don't mind being locked in story if they're. I mean, for example, in Dragon Age Origins, you know, you were locked into a story too, but there were different. There were different races that had a different impact on how your interactions, things like that.
Okay. So it's the character side of things.
The character. I want to be able to build a character in as many different ways as I feel like it. I mean, my current character for the LP is pretty unique. I never see people running that. She's a female orc, kind of combination of a ranger, warrior, druid, uses a bow, and also a nodachi, which is a giant katana, basically. I mean, things like that. Whereas The Witcher, I mean, from what I could glean from it, you have this really dinky little magic thing going on there. You have to use either a steel sword or a silver sword. And yeah, I guess there's some potions and there's alchemy, but I honestly don't see the appeal. Now, okay, before people go nuts, me saying that I don't like The Witcher based on it, there are other issues I had with it. I thought the rotation system with the movement was really bad. You would just do total 360s, which, you know, it's up to you whether you like that or not. I don't really like that. And me, as someone who's very sensitive to language, it was just obvious everything was being dubbed. The lip movements weren't matching the way it was actually being spoken, and that was just very sensitive stuff like that. It was driving me crazy, which is fine. But that was another obstacle for me. So, but yeah, I mean, I love a good story, but I want the ability. I mean, I don't want to go off too much of a tangent, but for example, a lot of suggestions for the next Mass Effect title, single player now, not multiplayer, have been give us a story, but give us something along the lines of Dragon Age Origins, where, you know, back then you start as an elf, different two kinds of elves, a city elf or a Dalish elf or a poor dwarf or a noble one. So maybe for Mass Effect 4, if you want to call it that, this idea of a story is that we're not going to save the universe. It's much more about a personal journey, which would be interesting. But then you can maybe play Krogan, or you could play a Solarian, or you could play a human, or you could play a Turian. I guess that's a good enough, and that would give you just tons of different reactions from the world you interact with.
I would play a Volus.
May the Volus be cursed forever. Yeah, I hate them. I absolutely can't stand Volus. They were an abomination for Mass Effect multiplayer. Such a waste. But yeah, no, that kind of thing is very. It could be really interesting because you have a fixed story maybe, but maybe the interactions are really going to be different, obviously. But maybe even the story takes a different twist if you play a Krogan as opposed to a Solarian or whatever, something like that. I'd love to see something like that, but a story such as The Witcher, you're Geralt the Witcher, you can kind of fiddle around with maybe a little bit more swordplay, a little more source or art or whatever the magic there is called. And I know you have good choices you can make there, but I don't know. That just does not appeal to me.
That's where the replayability comes in. Is not necessarily in the character, even though there is. Some customization, some slightly differing builds you can make. It's mostly in the path that the story takes. And I think that's similar to the way Mass Effect is as well. There are, again, you can choose the different classes. I don't even remember their names now anymore. But
Sentinel, Adept,
but it doesn't.
Vanguard.
I played Vanguard and I think like the Soldier my first run, but it didn't really change the way the game felt to me that much.
There's no impact.
Yeah.
But certainly in the context of Dragon Age, if you play a mage, because that's actually the next title, Dragon Age. In Dragon Age, Inquisition is all about the tear and the veil and mages going to war against Templars. I mean, that's going to have a major impact. That would be the ultimate story-driven RPG for me, whatever the genre might be. Science fiction, fantasy, where not only your racial choice is taken into account, but also your class choice, where they comment on it, where they're that can have a real impact, where you have maybe different options, and that's where for me where the replayability comes in. When I first started playing Skyrim, if I had played through a certain character, then I still wanted to try something, but it would be something completely different. So I'm just making something up now, but. A really sneaky character, well, maybe you want to play a sword and board, a tanky warrior type the next time. Maybe you want to play a hybrid. So the replayability comes in these different combinations as opposed to the story itself, I think, ultimately, yeah. And I think that's what I appreciate more. But the ultimate thing, of course, would, like I said, be race gets taken into account, class, and that has a different, and that leads to different story choices. That would be an amazing thing, and who knows?
They don't really make games like that anymore. I mean, you got to go back to like. I mean, do they do that in Skyrim? I haven't played Skyrim. Do they really react to you differently based on your class and your race, or is it more?
No, not well. No, it's minimal, but that's what I said. At least you have the ability to replay it with a completely different setup. That was my main thing.
Well,
I was
think
talking
that
about.
if we want to look at something like that where it really does make a big impact on everything, you probably got to go all the way back to like Vampire the Masquerade.
Vampire the Masquerade, fantastic. I mean, I played the hell out of that game. Played it with mods later on, and it's a shame that company went under. But. Really, that really had the kind of vampire you're playing really mattered, and the gameplay style, of course, was dependent on that too. If you play Nosferatu, obviously it's going to be significantly different from a Tremere or what have you. So yeah, that was. I'm praying to the gods that someone has the gumption to make something similar to that, another vampire game. I would love to see a vampire game along those lines, but much more modern with even more features. That would be amazing. But I don't see anyone doing that anytime soon.
I think it could happen with Kickstarter. You see all kinds of stuff that no one ever thought would ever come back.
Could happen with Kickstarter. I'd love to see that. I would support that with my poverty-stricken lack of funds. But yeah, I mean, I would kill. I love that game. I've always liked the vampire thing. I've always been into that. So I made the mistake of getting the game dark.
Oh boy,
yeah, vampire. But no, definitely is. I hope they do a Kickstarter project. I mean, maybe this company could come back, or the people who work for it, and could say, look, we're gonna make something even better. Same, but we need the Kickstarter funds. That would be pretty amazing. I would love to LP something like that. But I think we've come to the conclusion with regards to the LPs that most of it is personality driven, with the exception of, okay, this game just came out. Let's see what it looks like and how it plays.
Yes, and the thing about the personality-driven thing is the guys who have the most out there, upfront personalities, the loudest, the most exciting, they rise to the top. But you have more amateur people. I'm not saying amateur in a derogatory way, just people that do it not because they're making any money like these big guys do, but because they enjoy playing whatever the game is. You can't really find their content on YouTube because the first 5 pages are all the professional guys that get tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of views. Like I saw in the sidebar when I was looking at one of my BioShock DLC Let's Play episodes, the guy you've been talking about, the Not Rad Brad, had like 250,000 views on his episode 1 of playing this DLC. And nobody's ever going to find my playthrough of this game, because his is going to be way up there at the top. So it's really hard for someone to break through into the LP scene if they don't have the views already.
Well, let me. I'm going to make this official. Let me just say as well that the first dayers, as I might want to be inclined to call them, people that do the first day LPs, and they tend to be console people. They really do. The vast majority of, not always, but the vast majority of them, the Rad Brads, there were some others, they tend to they play on console. They play the game once, especially if it's an RPG game. They have no interest in it. I mean, console and RPG is kind of an oxymoron. So,
really?
Play it once.
Really?
Well,
I mean, look, my first RPG ever, Final Fantasy VII, console game, PlayStation 1. And I never got into the PC RPGs until much, much later. And
I'm aware, but the point is most console players, the core base of console players are not, how should I put it? They're not RPGers at heart, generally speaking. As a general rule, most RPGers are PC people, I think.
Okay. Well, certainly the PC RPGs are more in depth and involved.
Yeah. But I mean, the point is if a guy like Rad Brad or there's another guy who's relatively small, but this guy named Jumpin. He used to do these quote unquote guides for Mass Effect. They were terrible, but he plays on Xbox. A lot of this stuff is just kind of, I'm just going to play it because it's the first. But it's that's the kind of stuff that I think Total Biscuit doesn't like. The LPs, you just see some guys doing a first day. I'm almost 100% sure it's almost always a consoler as opposed to a PC player. It's been my experience at least.
One of the worst things I've ever seen in the LP realm is it was back in 2011, Battlefield 3 just came out, and I had started a channel with my friend. We were making Battlefield 3 videos, and he found this guy who was a partner with Machinima, whatever the FPS branch of Machinima is. I forget what it's called. Right. Respawn, I think. And this guy had like 250,000 subs, and all of his videos were him recording his TV. He's playing on Xbox, of course. He's recording his TV with a separate camera. He didn't even have a dedicated capture device to catch the stream itself. It was just him recording off screen with the camera, terrible video quality. and he's one of those yeller guys too. He's just screaming and carrying on. This guy had a hugely successful channel based off of ass quality video, terrible quality sound, and just ranting and raving as he plays Call of Duty and Battlefield. This is, for me, it was like really demoralizing to see that, because we were trying to put out the highest quality stuff we could in terms of video, audio, everything. We learned a whole bunch of stuff necessary to make sure that our videos were the top that we could do. And here's this guy, super successful, 250,000 subs, a partner with Machinima, and just the most ridiculous method of capturing his gameplay imaginable.
Eincrou, all I can say, I mentioned it before, 2 words, or maybe 1 word, I think it's a compound, piddle-ass. I mean,
there you go.
I mean, this is, it does a 1:30 video about, I don't know, some restaurant she went to, gets 30,000 views. I mean, we live in a culture and a civilization where, unfortunately, the common denominator is low quality. People can call me arrogant or whatever, but look, I would be able to do a lot more. So, for example, with my videos and my gaming channel, if I had better hardware. But I try to work with what I do have. I don't, totally get-a-size it. And I've seen channels like that. It's just Call of Duty or Battlefield and screaming. I think people like the loud voices because it kind of keeps them awake, I guess. Like I said, I've been called soporific before, and that might be true, might not be, but people like that just because it keeps them involved. It's people need to feel excited, right? And this is true of almost anything, especially when it comes to gaming and LPs. Shooters, first person, they lend themselves very well to that, to be, excited and angry and screaming and shouting.
Yep.
But I tried Counter-Strike for the first time ever a couple of days ago, and it's not a beginner's game, and when you never even played it, I think I killed 1 guy, maybe it was it. But I couldn't understand the appeal of it, really. And once again, I have to say, talk about story. People ask me, I played Mass Effect a lot, and the Mass Effect multiplayer was just, it's co-op, but still a shooter. Why? But because it had the background, it had the lore, the alien lore. A game like Counter-Strike that just kind of plops you off there, okay, just kill stuff. Tried Team Fortress 2. That was also kind of, so what? But those are the kinds of games where if you're really excited and you talk about how great everything is and fantastic and that kind of thing. So people like that, And I mean, I could in theory switch it on if it really were necessary. I could pretend to be excited about everything I do. Look how I'm killing this dragon, guys! Amazing! This dragon shout is so cool. This is how you get it. I mean, but it's just not really my style, unfortunately, or fortunately.
Yeah, I think everybody who has ever heard you speak before would be very, very uneasy at hearing you speak like that.
I think so. But unfortunately, I feel your pain. Well, let me, once again, this isn't about LPing, but speaking of Skyrim, which is dear to my heart, probably my favorite fantasy RPG game in a long time. So you take a guy like Gopher, who does high quality videos, a lot of effort put in. He happens to have access to good hardware, but he makes the best of it as well. He makes good use of it. Does mod reviews. He does technical stuff to help people install mods and how to fix this and technical issues. And he does LPs. And great channel overall. Like it a lot. There's a lot of emphasis on Skyrim too. Then you get Mox Review, or whatever the hell I call him, Tits and Ass Skyrim guy. Every video he has, with no exception I can think of, has a thumbnail, intentional of course, of some tits and ass mod, or at least image. The mods he covers are just irrelevant. I mean,
he covers everything that comes out.
Not really. He covers it's very rare he covers serious mods that actually make the game interesting. It's kind of skimpy. It's always skimpy stuff, or the dancing bear mod or something that's just really.
Oh yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, I mean it's just stuff that's not relevant, and yet he has them. And if you listen to him speak, the rare event that he actually hears this. I know you blocked me from your channel, but I have no qualms about talking about what I think about you here. The way he speaks, he sounds lacks confidence, very young. He doesn't get his points across very well, and yeah, and why is he popular? Because he's the only guy that consistently covers tits and ass mods. So he's using the sex sell principles. And let's be honest, the sex sell principles is catering to the lowest common denominator. That is not what I would call quality. Will it get you lots of views and lots of subs? Apparently it does. But then I compare that with a guy like Gopher, and I just think, why does this guy have twice as many subs as Gopher? Even though Gopher puts in 3 times the effort, has a much more pleasant voice to listen to, and actually can express himself, as opposed to this guy who's just it's just awful listening to him. It makes me cringe. But apparently he's popular. I mean, it's another thing I'm scratching my head sometimes for a game that I like a lot. Fine, I understand people like the tits and ass mods and what have you, but I mean, the really cool mods are the immersive ones, the Frostfall, the ones that change the climate, the ones that change the actual game mechanics. That's what Skyrim's all about. It's about the classes and the spells and the items and the dancing bear is nice, I guess, but and I get to each his own. But I just can't in the frozen north running around in chainmail bikini. I mean. Really?
So no chance of him covering your mod then.
But apparently, that appeals to a lot of people. And if you go to the Nexus Skyrim, you'll see a lot of the most popular mods are the tits and ass mods. There's a mod Caliente's Big Booty or Big Bottom. It's one of the most popular ones. There's even one called the Schlungs of Skyrim for women and gay inclined men, I guess. That's very popular. So that everything is just the sex sells. They tend to be quite popular. Not exclusively. There are also ones that that don't have anything to do with that. But so if you cater to the lowest denominator, it's possible you can become really popular. And to me, games like Call of Duty, less so Battlefield, I guess, although I'm still not really into it. That's the lowest common denominator. You just there always seems to be potential for Call of Duty. Maybe you're louder than the next guy. Maybe you're really good at headshot. I mean, that's a game that it's like the sex sells principle, except applied to video games.
Yes, it's something that I've pondered for a while. Is how do you create that high quality gaming channel and get it to a substantial size? Because people like when we were making the Battlefield videos. In 2011, that was before most videos were in HD, gaming videos. They would be mostly 720p at best. And we did the HD videos. We put the HD in our title, and we're saying like, hey, this is really high quality videos here. And it still couldn't compete with the big guys out there who didn't necessarily want to invest into a capture device, and so they just recorded with their fucking webcam their gameplay. So I think that people don't really recognize quality when they see it. I really think it's that bad that if you do the well-spoken video, you do the well-edited video, people will watch it and they won't even notice that you've done all that. And they'll go back to the guy that is screaming loud enough that they can hear him and notice what he's doing. So I really don't understand. I mean, I do understand YouTube, but I don't know how I can do things my way and get any kind of reach with it.
Halo reach. Well, I think it's part of the nature of the beast that people who don't know anything I would say that a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, more accurate, I didn't know jack shit about editing software or anything. I mean, once you start doing it, your perspective on it just changed. You know how much work it takes, how involved it is, and so when Gopher puts out a video, I mean, I know how much work he's putting into it. You know, and but if you don't know anything about software editing, then it's easy to just kind of just think it's whatever and complain about little things. And then the amount of knowledge you need to have to do a really good job with certain things. It's just Adobe After Effects as opposed to Sony Vegas. I mean, it's just there's so much involved possibly, and people are just not aware of it. They just see the final product and they like it or they don't like it, and that's always going to be the case unless they themselves know about editing. And unfortunately, like I said, we live in a culture, whatever it might be it gaming or anything else, where really the lowest common denominator is what's appealing, because the vast majority of the masses, the masses of people, that's what they like. They like most, Call of Duty is probably might be one of the most popular game, certainly shooting game out there. So there's the appeal right there. You scream a bit. And it's interesting. I mean, you can take different perspectives. There's a guy. He has a really interesting channel. He calls himself Modern War Negro. Modern War Negro. He doesn't just play Call of Duty, but he does. And his whole thing, it's very interesting, is he's the self-acknowledged black guy fighting against the white devil. That's his thing, essentially. And it seems to intentionally get in these tiffs while playing Call of Duty with white guys who happen to make racist comments, and then he goes on and says, "Oh, you're the white devil," and he's really popular. He found a popular game, and then he found his niche. He had a creative name, Modern War Negro, and he has these interesting riposts when people make these comments. I remember one of them was quite funny. This guy had used the N word on him. He said, "It's funny, man. White people have been making these jokes for 400 years, and they still haven't gotten any funnier." I mean, he's got this kind of style. Playing Call of Duty had nothing to do with Call of Duty, but it was just right. Yeah,
he's got that personality.
He's got the personality, and he's playing that game, and that's what makes Modern War Negro pretty pop. I think he's got close to 400,000 subs. He found his genre and his niche. And from there, he started with Call of Duty. Then you can move on to other stuff. Xcal, the Honest Mercenary, he started with Call of Duty. That's how he got big. And now he plays, it's kind of almost everything under the sun, and people watch him for the personality, I guess. So a lot of these guys start with something just really popular and then move away from it and just, play whatever they want. But I think that's a tough act, and you've mentioned this before. Is that people tend to associate you with a certain genre.
Whatever you're doing when they find you.
Whenever they find you, right? You get big. I'm doing, comparatively speaking, a lot better with my Skyrim stuff than I was when I tried it a while back, over a year ago. When I just said, I'm going to try something apart from just multiplayer, and I started losing subs rapidly when I did that. And I think it's because you get pigeonholed, and then you're stuck with that. That's true to a certain extent with the Call of Duty people, but usually there's enough following based off of that they can continue playing other games. I know XCal still plays Call of Duty sometimes, but he also plays tons of other stuff. And, people watch it just because, it's XCal. And same with the Modern War Negro. He started with Call of Duty, and then he migrated to other stuff. Still plays Call of Duty, but just, I guess, reinforce it. But so I think that's ultimately the strategy you need to employ. Or Gopher is pretty big in quality, but the reason why he got big is because first off, he created one of the most popular, amazing mods for Fallout 3, which is basically how to explain this sort of like frogman suit with all these super infrared infravision capabilities and water breathing, and I mean he's a very talented modder. Then he created all this technical help issue material to help people navigate through mods, and that's another way, you know. But that's rare. So, you know, I don't really know. I really realistically don't think my channel is ever going to grow to the point where it's even helping me to survive monetarily speaking. But I don't know. I've kind of forgotten about that for now. I'm just trying to focus on what I'm doing, trying to keep it going, improve where I can, and worry about the rest later. I mean, at some point in time, the numbers will either be there or they won't. But honestly, I know YouTube well enough, and you probably do as well, that numbers are certainly not a reflection necessarily of quality. And I'm not saying I have the most amazing quality. I'm just saying Piddalass or the guy you mentioned, or I mean Jenna Marbles, she's going strong with her 3 to 4 minute video once a week about her moving into a new house and her luggage. I mean, you know, this is not groundbreaking material, but
it seems like of the big YouTubers who make these videos, there are just few that I would want to watch play games. And if I do find someone that I like watching playing games, he's a tiny guy who just does it in his free time. And I don't really know why that is. It's not a conscious decision that I'm not going to watch the biggest YouTubers out there play games. I do watch some of Total Biscuit's. He says, well, I guess he does admit that it's LP content, but I watch him play Hearthstone, which is an online collectible card game, and I watch it because I enjoy his commentary on the game, not because he's really amazing at it. He isn't. But I do enjoy listening to the way he speaks on things. And there are guys that are, well, tiny channels, like a couple hundred subs that I'll watch regularly because I just like the way they do things. And one of the guys that I watch is a guy that is not of this exciting brand of LPer. He's just a guy who's very calm. He rarely gets upset, even when like he screws up things in games, and I enjoy that about him. And so I watch pretty much everything he does. Yeah. And it's similar to what you do with your LPs. Is you don't ever start yelling or anything like that, and it's just relaxing to listen to. And that's the kind of thing that I enjoy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny. A guy I used to play Mass Effect multiplayer with. He was a legend there. He sets sort of benchmarks for solo runs and things. He told me one day. He said, you know, yeah, I don't watch your videos, you know, for the gameplay. I mean, it's not to say. Look, I mean, for my age, like I said, I certainly was one of the best, but I can't compete with the young people, and I'm just not an amazing shooter kind of guy. But it's just for the commentary. I think people, and I'm no Total Biscuit, but I definitely see what you mean about that. That you know, in his case, it's the commentary. Sometimes it's informative. I'm sub to him too. But yeah, there are smaller channels that I really enjoy watching. But as far as Skyrim's concerned, I think Gopher's the only one that I consistently watch. But I think I'm the only. I mean, it sounds arrogant. I'm the only one who actually talks about the technical aspects of Skyrim. I mean, I talk about spells. For example, I use Skyrim redone. I'm planning on a mod review on that, so hopefully I'll get that done soon enough in case people are interested. So let's say, here we have casters, and there's a spell called Bloodcaster's Curse, which causes them to have their health drained the more magicka they use. And I say, so this is an instance where you want to use this, and I don't see anyone play Skyrim like that. I mean, nobody plays it that. I look at it from a technical aspect. I'm very much into the builds. It's kind of the most important thing to me. How am I going to build this character? The story is almost secondary, at least at this point, because I know it so well. It's just, for example, I fought a major. This is already out, so people's watch this. A major enemy. The major enemy in one of my LPs, one of the more recent ones, And specifically just for that encounter, I was been working up my alchemy skill to become an amazing poison maker, and I brewed the most vile poison out there just so I could defeat this enemy very quick. And I mean, I'm talking about hours and hours of going the game just for that. That's how I play, you know, just so I could apply it to a dagger and kill him very quickly, or defeat him rather. And you know, I don't see people do things like that. You know, I'm very much about strategy. Oh, I'm entering this dungeon. What kind of spells will I need? How, you know, and of course, a lot of that has to do with the fact that I'm knowledgeable about the game, but that's my approach too as well. You know, just for me, it's so much about the build and the game mechanics. It really interests me a lot. Because Skyrim, I have to admit, it's got an interesting story from the lore perspective, but it's not a deep story. It's sandbox. Bethesda's never a deep story. They don't do that. That's not its strength. You know, you want to play The Witcher for that, or theoretically speaking, BioWare. But even in the BioWare games, the Mass Effect before the Abomination of 3 came out, yeah, I was all about the builds too. You know, what's a good build? What's a good setup? In addition to the story. So both for me are really important. I have no idea how I got on this topic, but
it happens.
But yeah, I mean, it's relevant to gaming. You know, that's how I, you know, if people watch my Skyrim LP, you see, I'm always talking about the kinds of spells I'm using, the potions and poisons I brew, the kinds of gear I use, why I'm using take certain perks as opposed to others, and so on and so forth. And
this is the type of thing that I like to see in the LPs, is where you can watch the LP and learn about the game, and then if it's not a game I've ever played, then maybe I am interested and I go pick it up, and I'm already a semi-expert on it because I was watching someone who knew what they were doing. And that's the situation with XCOM Enemy Unknown. I'd watched just so many hours of Marbo Zier playing the game and talking about strategies and how the game works. I knew exactly what I was doing going into it. And that's something that I find very valuable in an LPer, is when you learn about the game, and as a result, you can apply that knowledge. And it sounds like that is what someone will get if they watch your LPs of Skyrim.
I hope so, yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm very much intent on doing, I'm not going to be making tons of mod reviews, but certain mods I think are really good, like the Hunter Reborn one. And I personally think Skyrim Done is the best mod out there for Skyrim, the best. So I'm going to be doing an in-depth review of that, and explain all the details and how it changes the game, and why, in case you don't use it, why you really should be using it. Because to me, Skyrim is defined by Skyrim Redone. The game is just 1,000 times better. And you haven't started playing, but remember I was talking to you earlier. I said that I know you want to try it vanilla first, but just don't do it. Just use Skyrim Redone right off the bat. You know, don't play it vanilla.
I will.
Yeah, because I think my mod review will be out by that time, so you can have a look at it and see how it's so much more inventive. And the fantastic thing, we're going off on tangent, but you know, whatever, it's still gaming. The author of that mod, Tendo is his name. He's working on he calls it. It's funny. What does he call it? The next big thing, which is kind of a cool title for now. The top secret project. Well, I mean, Skyrim Redone is the big thing, so I think he's earned his rights to call it the next big thing. And he has some teasers, some super powerful spells of the highest echelon, and some other stuff. I don't know what it's going to be, but it looks like it's going to be. I'm going to love it whenever it comes out. It's really top secret. He has a couple of teaser videos of just basic stuff and stuff, but it's really fantastic. But yeah, I really went off on tangent here, but still, LPing, yeah, that's how I would do it. And any future games I LP, well, if and when Pillars of Eternity is released, I'm probably going to do an LP of that, and I guess it'll be semi-blind, but I'm still going to be talking about the mechanics, probably out loud. You know, how does this work, and that's really important to me. But that doesn't appeal to a lot of people. Because that's less personality driven than it is talking about the game itself. And as we agreed in the beginning, personality tends to define LPs more than anything else, I'd argue.
Without a doubt. And When I play a game, it's definitely me. It's not like I'm putting on an act, like some LPers maybe do. I don't know if they do or don't, but certainly some try to be a certain type of person. Me, I will just exaggerate who I am. I just do things off the top of my head and maybe push them out a little harder, a little faster than I normally would. But when I play a game, it really is what I'm thinking at the time. And I do try to have fun when I play my games. So maybe I do some crazy shit. Maybe it's ridiculous or whatever. Like there were some times in the BioShock DLC playthrough I did where I just went off the wall. But yeah, that's how I think of things, and I do that in my reviews too. Is I just I come up with a crazy idea and I do it. But this is me, even though it's kind of an exaggeration of what I am. It's a larger than life version of myself, and I know you keep it to like what you really are when you're playing games. But I like to go a bit wild with it and have a bit of fun.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. I mean, it's the appeal of any role playing game is kind of slipping into a role that might not be. I mean, that said, I mean, for Skyrim, I play different. My current character is kind of has kind of a neutral. I mean, to use D&D Dungeons and Dragons class, it's kind of a neutral alignment more than anything else. But this other character I'll be working on for the special LPs, if you will, is almost certainly going to be quite evil and cruel. And that's not really the way I am, but and at some point in time, if I ever decide to do even more Skyrim, privately or otherwise, maybe I'll try something, a really good character or whatever. So
so when you come up with these alignments, obviously they play into the decisions you make and in your actions in the game.
Yeah.
But does it play into your commentary at all, or is the commentary just Stardust?
Well, I don't know. That's just a really, really tough question. I mean, since I'm not really good at the role play. I mean, I try to do it a bit, but like I said, my orc kind of druid warrior. That's the class I'm calling it, the druid warrior. She's definitely she's not evil, but she happens to be a werewolf as well. And sometimes she likes to sometimes the beast takes over and she goes nuts. But she's definitely sort of neutral. She's not looking to harm people, but if people start something with her, she'll take them down. And she's a lot more about her own perceptions of, I mean, it's the first time I'm actually talking the details of my character. I mean, she grew up, I use alternate start, so it gives you different beginnings. That's another mod you should get when you start playing the game.
But I don't want to start in that place where the first LP you did, the one you had to stop.
Oh,
you started in like some underground hellhole.
Yeah, no, well, you can. You can choose
there.
it. But my orc, but Zorna, she grew up in a stronghold a little bit outside of Skyrim, and was always an outsider, and she kind of grew up in nature. So her perspective and her decisions are often based on that. So she hates the undead, for example, but that's because she's very much tied into like nature and nature magic, and the undead just don't mesh with that. And morally speaking, she's kind of, like I said, she's got a best. I mean, she's a werebeast at the end of the day, so she's got that aspect going. So she's not really a good character, but she's not an evil. She's kind of about her perspective in relation to nature and how she, I guess, how she grew up, kind of very isolated. Whereas this other character I'm probably going to be working on soon, this is a standard. I had to actually get rid of the mod because there was a mod conflict, because I want to make him a vampire later. But he got caught. He has been a criminal, and he used to be a bounty hunter and a thug. And as the game progresses, he's going to become a very proficient assassin. And he does have a cruel streak in him. And that's just a different. So I don't know if it's so much good or evil, but rather the way the characters look at themselves and their perspectives. Whereas Zorna, my current character, looks at everything from the perspective of nature and how how would the natural environment interact? Why does she hate undead? Not because they're evil, but because they're just they have nothing to do with nature, really. They're anti-nature. And Cesar, the Khajiit assassin, he's not he is evil, but it's more that he has his goals and he'll do whatever it takes to get oh, do I need to kill him to get him? He's in my way, I'll kill him, whatever. He's a sociopath. He has no regard for other life.
Well,
and things
when
like
I hear
that.
this, you've obviously got these in-depth understandings of each of these characters that you've created.
Yeah.
And it seems like you could do your commentary from their perspective and what they're thinking when they encounter specific situations, and that's role playing it. It seems like you could be able to do that when you have this much knowledge of how your characters see things, and you go that in depth with it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I do that to a certain extent. So in a recent Let's Play, in order to enter a forbidden realm, which is the realm, I'm not going to spoil it, the realm of the dead, essentially, I'm given a choice. I can either sacrifice part of my soul and retain my mortality and enter, or I'm given the choice to, that wouldn't be temporary, to be offered the quote-unquote the gift of vampirism. And because of the natural perspective, I say, my character Zorna, she's not going to become a vampire. She hates the undead, so she'd rather sacrifice a part of her soul in order to enter this realm than to become part of.
Well, how do you say that? Do you say, oh well, Zorna's not gonna, or do you say it like, I'm not going to do this because I don't like the undead?
I say Zorna. Zorna does not like the undead.
Okay,
she's certainly not going to become a vampire.
Your character is someone else. It's not that you want to give your thoughts as the character. I think that you could try that. I think that it might take some practice, but I think that you've got the sense of your characters that you could do that.
For Cesar, this up-and-coming character, I'm going to do the special LP, the player-made mod DLC, essentially. I'm going to be doing that because as an assassin, which I'll be working on, that's his kind of he's all about his goals, and he also has a thirst for vengeance. And so I'll be reflecting that hopefully in the LP once I get around to that. So
Great.
Whereas Zorna is a little less defined in some ways. Yeah. Okay, so I hope that was we found some tangents, but I hope that was informative. The fine art of LPing and some other stuff as well.
Yes, character customization and creation, and that's why I think you should play Dark Souls. I recommend that game to you if you get yourself a controller.
If I can get myself a controller, well, we'll see.
It's a bad port, so
still on the fence about that, but I guess I'll consider it. I'm willing to try anything once at least. So anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed that podcast. We'll try to do these every now and then with some degree of frequency. I think the next one we're going to talk about consoles, right? No.
That was the plan. That
was the plan.
Let's go kick some console peasant ass.
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Did I? Oh.
No, console peasant ass. Okay, everyone, thanks for watching, and looking forward to your comments. Everyone take care. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. See you next time.